Whether a rock,
Yeah, come on, power.
a boulder, or a cliff, if it's vertical, they'll probably try to climb it.
Before that crack at us, looking for our next fix.
It's really one of the only times in our lives that we stop and we're only focused on just what we're doing. And it's a beautiful feeling. It's a freeing feeling. It's like meditation.
From the black basalt cliffs of southern Idaho to the granite spires in the north, Idaho's diverse geology is truly a climber's paradise.
Funding for Outdoor Idaho is made possible by the Friends of Idaho Public Television, by the Laura Moore Cunningham Foundation, committed to fulfilling the Moore's legacy of helping to build the great state of Idaho, and by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
They were once an exclusive band of wanderers, exploring the state for the next challenging rock face or boulder. But today's climbing community has come of age. Advocacy groups, climbing clubs, gyms have all added to the experience. Hi, I'm Bruce Reichert, and welcome to Outdoor Idaho. Oh, they're still up on the crags, reminding all of us that so much of life is to be explored and conquered. Climbing really is a sport that can inspire. Getting to the top of a mountain or peak was the goal of early expeditions. Climbing rock was just something they had to do to get there. With just a rope around their waist and leather-soled shoes, their resolve was admirable. It was adventure, exploration, and unbeknownst to them, the beginnings of a sport that captured later generations. Heavy pitons and hammers were used for many years in traditional climbing. It was slow and hard work. Today, the gear is lighter and more efficient, allowing climbers to go higher, harder, and faster than ever before. Shoes with rubber soles help feet find better footholds on the rock, and chalk dust keeps fingers dry for a better grip. Harnesses, nylon ropes, helmets, and better belaying devices make a fall less dangerous. And permanent bolts on blank rock faces where no cracks exist to place gear allow climbers to scale the unclimbable. A carabiner and rope are clipped to the hanger, providing maximum protection. Climbing on permanent bolts is called sport climbing, and today it's a common practice. But in the late 70s, the use of bolts seemed like cheating to many, not to mention defacement of the rock.
It's kind of controversial. People, don't like the idea of putting in fixed anchors, because most climbers have a leave no trace ethic. So there's a conflict there. Over time, people have realized that the fixed stuff is fairly unobtrusive, and the safety element makes it so much more accessible and safer.
It was here along the historic California Trail in Idaho's City of Rocks that permanent bolting gained a foothold in the early 1980s. Sport climbing legend and pioneer Tony Yaniro and others put up countless bolted routes, and in many ways put the city on the map for sport climbing. But drilling bolts into the rock stirred up controversy, not only in the climbing community, but also among historical preservationists and archaeologists. In an effort to mitigate concerns over misuse and to help manage the increasing number of visitors, the City of Rocks became a reserve in 1988, managed by the National Park Service. Within a few years, rocks along the California Trail were closed to climbing to protect 19th century axle grease writings and to maintain the corridor as an historic landmark. A moratorium was placed on bolting, and private landowners posted no trespassing signs around rocks on their property. The city would never be the same for climbers.
We've lost access to some of actually the best rocks. There's a rock that's called the Dolphin that has the highest concentration of difficult roots probably in Idaho. And it is on private land, and so we don't go there anymore.
Dave Bingham started climbing here in the late 1970s. His name and climbing guidebook are now synonymous with the area.
That's my book.
Who's that, you?
Is it your book?
Are you serious?
I was waiting for you to say, this thing.
Anyone climbing at the city probably owns Dave's book. Over 30 years of personal research and mapping make it a must-have for climbers. He can claim about 200 routes or first ascents as his own, like this one on the Dolphin in 1989.
That was my project at the time, and it's a route that's called the Amphibian, and it's got a rating of 12C, which means it's getting close to 13. You do a really long sequence of hard moves, and then you get to a particularly hard move right when you're really, you're at, pumped as you can be, barely hanging on, and you've got to do the hardest move. And that's where I fell off. More than once, but I did finally put it all together, and complete that route.
Damn.
The difficulty of a route is determined by the hardest move and also how sustained or strenuous the climb is. In sport climbing, taking a fall is expected.
It's what happens on the way to figuring out a difficult route. They're like a choreographed routine where you practice and practice, and you finally are able to execute the moves without falling. So often you're falling, dozens of times before you're able to do it without falling.
Each route has a unique name and grading, with the grade determined by the climbers through consensus.
Originally, the rating system was developed in Yosemite, and it was designed to be a 1 through 10 scale, 10 being the hardest. But then it didn't take too many years before something harder than a 10, and people didn't know what to do with that. Now it's up to 15. And the difference between a 15 and a 10 is really dramatic.
I got you. Have a lovely time.
In 1972, Dick Dorworth discovered the City of Rocks on a trip to Idaho. He had taken up rock climbing a few years earlier, almost by happenstance, when he joined an expedition to Patagonia to climb Mount Fitzroy, an 11,000-foot peak of granite, ice, and snow. The climb was documented in this 1968 film, which shows Dick and his 3 companions as they launched their assault on the foreboding Tower of Rock, which had only been climbed twice before.
At first, I was only going to carry loads on Fitzroy, and then I started climbing that spring with Jim Bridwell and some other guys in Yosemite, and so on the way down there, I convinced Chenard that he had to take me up Fitzroy too, and so I got to climb Fitzroy even though I was completely without the ability to do that, but we got up it anyway. Yeah, pretty cool.
Dick eventually ended up in Idaho, where he writes, skis, and rock climbs. Watching him climb a route at age 73 while fighting a cold, you get a sense of his tenacity and tremendous love of the outdoors, especially his love of the City of Rocks. In 1972, it was virtually undiscovered.
We climbed here for days and never saw another climber. We'd see some ranchers going by, and we'd just walk around and look at the rocks and say, well, that looks like a route, and we'd do it. I was told that the biggest rocks were on the southwest corner, which is the Twin Sisters. So we drove down to the Twin Sisters and climbed the southwest face of the South Sister.
The Twin Sisters are closed to climbing today because it lies in the historic corridor. And even after 20 years, it's a loss that Doug Caldwell regrets. But as a member of the Access Fund, a national organization that performs advocacy for climbing areas throughout the country, he has other issues to focus on.
Here at the City of Rocks, currently we're dealing with an issue on Castle Rocks. The BLM has closed 400 acres and the Access Fund is involved in working with our national and state regulatory bodies in trying to see if there's some alternatives that might allow climbing on that 400 acres of ground.
Despite the Castle Rock closures, today it's safe to say that the City of Rocks is kind of a climber's Disneyland.
It's fantastic climbing. You're on granite, solid granite rock. You have the features on the rock that we refer to as patina that make for really nice big handholds right when you need them type of thing. And there's all sorts of kind of intermediate climbs, and the beautiful camping area makes it one of the destination climbing areas in the country for families and intermediate climbers.
With over 700 routes of traditional and sport climbing, the city welcomes climbers of all ages and skill levels.
A lot of people I know who did a lot of sport climbing at one point are coming back to doing a little bit more traditional climbing, and even though a lot of the climbs here are bolted, I feel that they are a little bit old style bolted, where the bolts are further apart, or you might have to place gear in between the bolts, and that's just more of a mental challenge.
When Carol Kochek started climbing in the late 70s, there weren't many women on the rocks, but that didn't stop her.
There weren't very many climbers, and there were very, very few women climbers, and it'd be funny because I remember going to Salt Lake once and climbing in Little Cottonwood, and every single guy there was like, who are they? I was with another woman, and two women together was really unusual. So in that way, I guess it was kind of fun. Women do usually tend to be more flexible, so I think women generally climb more gracefully and less brute strength. People in general, but especially men, focus way too much on I have to get stronger, and it's like, well, maybe you just need better technique and a better strategy to climb harder. You know, you're plenty strong.
Strategy and technique are key to good rock climbing. But in the backcountry, stamina and strength get you to the top. This is alpine rock climbing, where a hardy disposition for long treks with heavy packs is rewarded with multi-pitch routes, remote beauty, and quiet solitude. Rocks like the Elephant's Perch in the Sawtooth National Recreation Area, or Chimney Rock in the Selkirk Range in northern Idaho, beckon to the adventurous.
It's above tree-line granite, so it's not dirty. There's no dirt. And then there's permanent bolts on chimney at most of the blaze stations and the rappel stations. So someone's gone up there with a bolt gun, put in the bolts, and that helps to make it safe.
A recent rockfall on the east face wiped out some classic routes, but that won't keep serious climbers away.
You go to Yosemite or Smith Rocks or some of the big mainstream places, and there's people on every other route. And there's people at the base, and there's lots of noise, and there's dogs and everything, you know. And up here, it's just quiet and nice, and there's no one to bug you. And of course, there's no one to rescue you either if something takes a turn.
Safety is not taken lightly by the climbing crowd.
All right, off we go. 2 locked and ready to rock.
Climbers take every precaution to protect themselves from a fall.
They make a whole range of gear to wedge in cracks, basically, that will support either body weight or a huge fall. And with modern harnesses and ropes and all this gear in front of you, you can basically any crack that you're climbing, anywhere from an 1/8 of an inch crack all the way up to a 4.5 inch crack, you can put something in the crack that will stay there if you place it right and you're experienced with it. Then you clip usually what's called a quick draw, one of these, onto that piece of gear, and you pass your climbing rope through here. That way, when you're leading a pitch, you can fall, but you're only going to fall twice the distance you are above your last piece of protection, ideally, if it stays put and your belayer is paying attention.
Reed Dowdle and Brad Brooks are climbing partners. Their love of backcountry climbing has brought them to the Elephant's Perch, where they plan to climb a 512 trad route called Sunrise Book, one of 30-some climbs on the Golden Granite Rock. Reed discovered the Elephant's Perch about 35 years ago and pioneered many of the routes here, but he humbly declines any credit.
I often, when I do climbs up here, you never know if they've been done before. Sometimes you find gear up on the climb, sometimes you don't. If I do a climb that I really enjoyed and think other people would really enjoy it, and I would be willing to do it again, I usually draw up a topo or a map of it. And I've never put my name on any of them. I just, here's a climb, here's a map. If you want to use it, you can.
All right, Reed, let's give her hell.
The two climbers will share lead climbing. Brad leads the second pitch of this 5-pitch route, while Reed belays from below. Brad is free climbing, placing protection as he climbs. If he slips or falls, Reed is anchored to the rock below to help support his weight. From a distance, you can barely spot them on the huge face. Even for veteran climbers, a healthy sense of fear is natural.
A good rock climber is not just physically strong, you have to be mentally strong as well. And you always have that little voice in the back of your head that's telling you that you don't belong here and that you should go back down. And whether or not you listen to it is, that's really what makes a good rock climber, someone who understands that voice and knows when they're in an unsafe situation or knows that things are safe. You're just a little scared because you're 1,000 feet off the ground right now. And you know that you can keep going. And when you push yourself to those new heights, it's the best feeling in the world. There's no greater sense of satisfaction knowing you've conquered your fear like that.
After 5 hours of reaching, jamming, stepping, and hauling themselves up the rock, the top is finally in sight.
Oh my God. The first time I ever got to the top of the Elephant's Perch was like, it was like euphoria for me. And I've been hooked ever since. Woo! I couldn't imagine spending my life doing anything else.
The passion to climb comes in many packages. Whether outside or in, the sport is growing. Urban climbing gyms and walls are now popular in many communities.
There's a really varied demographic that comes to the gym. There's people there that have never climbed outside a day in their life. They come to the climbing gym because it's an alternative workout. And then there's people like myself that generally use the gym more as a training tool.
Not far from the gym and just outside Boise, about 500 routes can be found at the Black Cliffs. The 70-foot tall columns of basalt have both trad and sport climbs. Mike is healing up from an injury, so he won't climb today.
Let's do that to warm up.
But his wife Kaya and friend Nicole are eager to get in a few routes.
If you're a beginner, it's a good place to come because you can put a top rope up over the cliff so you don't have to always lead climb. So that kind of makes it a good place for even beginners to be able to try out like some crags.
Kaya and Mike Bacchino are avid boulderers, but still enjoy climbing on the cliffs occasionally. They both work at a local climbing gym and invest quite a bit of time into the sport. And it's not always just about climbing. They are both active members of the Boise Climbers Alliance, which is affiliated with the Access Fund.
Once a year, the Boise Climbers Alliance actually comes out here and does an Adopt a Crag Day, and that's where you see all the trail systems and all the steps that we walked up on. That's climbers doing that, because if you don't do that, then every time it rains, all the dirt just washes right down the trail and the erosion gets bad, and then access issues start to spring up very quickly.
Bacchino's generation has taken to bouldering much like Dick Dorworth's generation took to trad climbing, or Dave Bingham's to sport climbing.
Some people prefer to do the longer stuff. For me though, it's more about the physical sport of it, testing yourself against the rocks on a powerful, almost gymnastic level. It's kind of the running equivalent of doing the 100-meter versus the marathon. I prefer the shorter sprints. Okay, I'm going to do the sit start here to Old Spice on the Spice Girls boulder. At least try it.
The best time to climb this Snake River Canyon basalt is spring or fall, when the temperatures are cool. Hotter temps make the rock slippery.
Come on. Good.
Bouldering doesn't require ropes, harnesses, or bolts, but it does require strength, flexibility, and a problem.
A boulder problem it's similar to like a math problem or a puzzle where you have to figure out the little pieces and then slowly put the whole climb together. You know, you have to figure out, okay, where am I going to start? How are my feet going to go? Do I grab this next hold with my right hand or do I grab it with my left hand? And the ultimate goal is to send it from the start, wherever that may be, usually the first grabbable hold to the top, and what we call that is ascend.
Sending a route rarely happens on the first attempt. Thick pads help cushion a fall.
You kind of have to learn how to fall. Bouldering's not all about going up. Most of the time you're actually falling down. That's kind of what makes it fun, is the difficulty of it. You have to work and work and work at something. And you kind of have to have that cat-like reflex of getting your feet underneath you as quickly as possible. I'd say it's dangerous to an extent. I don't think there's any life-threatening possibilities in bouldering, but there's definitely, you know, possibility to break an ankle or knock yourself out if you fall.
A climbing boulder may have one route or several. Climbers use their beta or expertise to search out the best holds.
Skip a hole.
Terms like crimp, sick crimp, sloper, and jug are also part of the climber's unique vocabulary.
Nice job, Tammy.
Thanks.
Next stop, the Mondo Generator Traverse on the Mondo Generator Boulder.
So we start here. We kind of follow this big feature, this fin almost, all the way out. You traverse it. Not all boulder problems go straight up.
Come on. There you go. Come on, stick with it.
Part of the allure of bouldering is to explore new areas for challenging problems. This granite boulder field at Reynolds Creek in the Owyhees provides Mike and his friends with a variety of difficult climbs.
Right hand up, right next to it. It's a jug. This boulder here is called Ride the Lightning. There's actually kind of two variations or paths that you can take on it. If you go straight up the tallest part of the boulder, it's called the Thunder Show. And then if you break out right into kind of some easier climbing, kind of escape sort of thing, it's called Ride the Lightning. And it's a fairly difficult problem, one of the harder problems around here, kind of what's attractive about it. A lot of times it's fun to have a little bit of height to it. Kind of adds a little bit of spice. If you fall from up high, it's sometimes a little scary, but that's part of the fun of it as well. Yeah, come on, power, power. Yeah, come on. There you go. Flag right hard, there you go, yeah.
In the boulder fields of southern Idaho, there is always another problem to solve, another route to send, even after dark.
Night climbing has that special kick to it, I guess. you can't see your holds half the time and you're hucking for a blind hold and you just hope that your hand hits it and go, oh, good, I got it. I guess you'll never feel like you're really alone until you climb at night. Like it's you and the rock. It's cool. The fact that I climbed Catalysis in one go, right off the couch, made me excited. V10, super hard, got it first attempt, that was awesome.
Funding for Outdoor Idaho is made possible by the Friends of Idaho Public Television, by the Laura Moore Cunningham Foundation, committed to fulfilling the Moore's legacy of helping to build the great state of Idaho, and by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. All Outdoor Idaho programs are available for purchase, including hour-long specials. To find more information about these shows, visit us at idahoptv.org.